how are you doing? I hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's episode of Tactics, we'll be going over Xabi Alonso's 3-4-2-1 formation that he does use at Bayer Leverkusen. We'll be looking to try and replicate and recreate the realistic set of tactics that you see him implement on the field on a day-to-day basis. So, before we get into things, can you do me a big favor and like this video, subscribe if you're new. If we can get 15 likes on the video, please, that would be great. I will release his 4-4-2 formation that he does also look to use at Bayer Leverkusen. So we'll start off with Boniface at the top of the field. He has absolutely elevated himself in world football. The likes of Patrick Schick getting injured propelled Boniface into the starting lineup, and he has taken his opportunity with both hands. Just in behind him though, we've got Wirtz as well as Hoffman. We've got Frimpong, Andrich, Xhaka and Grimaldo in the midfield, and then we've got Hincapi, Tar, as well as Tapsoba in the defense. And then finally between the sticks we've got Hardeki, the Capitano. In the substitutes department we've got Schick, Adli, Palacios, Teller, Kovar, Stanisic and Kasonu. Then in the reserves we've got Ploshek, Arthur, Amiri, Fosu Mensah, and then Mbamba, and then a few other players I don't really care to mention. So with the formation, it's a 3-4-2-1, one goalkeeper, 3 centre-backs, 2 central midfielders, 2 wide midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders, and then 1 striker. You'll know that with this set of instructions, Xabi Alonso, he looks to use them against the bigger teams, the Bayern Munichs, the potential Borussia Dortmunds, all the teams that look to try and dominate possession, try and, work their way up the field, try and bully your team in some moments. So what he does is he likes to try and make a compact unit, wait for the opposition to make a mistake, and then he will look to try and pounce on that mistake. So what I've gone with here is a pressure on heavy tackle, like I say, compact unit, waiting for the opposition to make the mistake, and then they'll pounce and try and counter-attack and win the ball back and circulate it back into possession. For the team width, it is set to 35. You are trying to funnel the opposition into those wider areas. You have a nice, strong 5 in that central of the park area. You've got 3 centre-backs and 2 strong central midfielders who are all very capable and very aerially dominant, that they can challenge and potentially win more aerial duels than not. As for the depth, it is set to 80. It helps you in and out of possession more times than not. Either with the high line, it does cause many offside opportunities for you to help you win the ball back, or essentially, if the opposition is hurried and rushed and they're trying to clear the ball, it'll be cleared straight into your defensive department where they'll look to win the ball back on the aerial level and then circulate it back into possession. So it does help more times than not going forward. And speaking of going forward, we've got the offense. The build-up play sets are having a balanced approach, whether it's Tapsoba or potentially Hincapi. They will look to try and ping those long balls into the offensive front line, or potentially you would like to slow things down a bit more, gain a grip on the game, have Wirtz, Xhaka and all of those midfielders interchanging passes and just slow things down, have a slower build-up in the final third. And that does help, and that's why I've gone with the balanced approach with this. It's a more dynamic approach, and the system is a very dynamic system nonetheless. As for chance creation, it's a possession system, which is why I've gone with possession. It goes without saying, you want to try and have those little passing triangles formulate throughout the pitch, as well as you want to try and keep the ball, wait, be patient with it before you find your final pass in that final third. As for the width, it is set to 65. You do have a nice wide spread midfield, as is your wingers or your wide midfielders. They are your fullbacks essentially, so you do have them in the wider regions as is. But essentially what you do want to try and create with this is trying to generate space between your attacking midfielders as well as your central midfielders, and have them have a bit more space and time in and around on the ball. For the place in the box, I've gone with a 7. Before, in the previous set of tactics with the 3-4-2-1 FIFA 23 tactics, I went with a 6. But I think with EAFC 24, going with 7, having a bit more players in the box, it allows you to try and capitalize on any loose balls, any potential ricochets in the box for you to potentially score more goals. As for corners and free kicks, as for always, it is set to 4. So we'll start off between the sticks. Hardeki, he is set to be a sweeper keeper. When you are playing a high line, it goes without saying you need a keeper to be able to run off with his line, claim the ball, circulate it back into possession, and just be more ready than not. But what I will say is Hardeki, he's not the best with claiming those aerial balls. He is capable, don't get me wrong, but more times than not, he will look to try and punch that. So you don't really want him too involved with that, and to try and replicate a realistic approach that he does normally take in games, I've gone with a balanced approach for him, saving on crosses. Moving on into the defense, we've got Hincapi and Tar. They are set to their base of instructions, while the likes of Tapsoba has a different set of instructions. He will look to overlap into that midfield at times, joining up with them, as well as step up. You do want him to be a bit more aggressive, be more imposing on the opposition's front line, and just assert himself on the game. So starting off with the midfield, Xhaka, he's set to have a balanced attack, so he will sometimes look to be more attacking than not, but he is going to have the box-to-box role, making sure that he is cleaning up at the top of the field just as much as what he does at the bottom of the field. In terms of his support on crosses, he will look to stay on the edge of the box. Both Xhaka and Andrich will have this approach because they will want to try and create those little passing triangles at the edge of the box for other players, having that killer pass or potentially a shot on goal for themselves. The interceptions are set to normal, and then their defensive position is set to cover the wing and stick to position. They need to be very disciplined when doing this. Of course, it is a very thin midfield. You do have two attacking midfielders, but they won't always look to drop that deep in order to try and support the midfielders at times, or the deeper midfielders, which is why you need the likes of Xhaka, Andrich, or whoever you have in the centre of the park to be as disciplined as possible. Discipline is the key word here. But also, in saying that, they will look to try and cover for the fullbacks / wide midfielders at times. If they are out of position, they will look to try sometimes slot into that wider role, trying to make sure that there's a body in the way of the opposition. Moving on to Andrich, though, he is set to stay back while attacking, providing another layer, a shield element to the back three system, protecting them at times, sweeping up in front of them as well. In terms of the support on crosses, stay on the edge of the box, like I said, very similar to what Xhaka does, but with the likes of Andrich, he'll do it on the other side of the field, in the more defensive side of things. So cover the wing, sticks position. He will also look to slot in as a right back at times if Frimpong is out of position, as well as normal interceptions are set to be on. So moving out wide, both Frimpong and Grimaldo have the same set of instructions, but this time, because they are right and left midfielders and not right and left wing backs, they do have slightly different variations to their game. So they will have a defensive support of come back on defense, stay wide and get in behind. That is essential for a wing back / wide midfielder in this system to have. And then in terms of the interceptions, it is set to aggressive, and support on crosses is set to having a balanced approach. You do want them to be able to get into the box, but you want them to also help with the build-up play, working those balls on the edge of the box, working space on the edge of the box, and then advancing into the attacking area. And then, as you can see, for Grimaldo, he's got the same set of instructions as well. So for our attacking midfielders, we've got Wirtz and Hoffman. Both of them have the same set of instructions, and both of them are set to come back on defense. They like to drop off ever so slightly. They like to just, get on the ball at a deeper rate and then drive it on forward into the box themselves, or creating for another teammate. As for the support on crosses, they have got a balanced approach, because whether it's a cross whipped in from the right hand or the left hand side, they will look to make that run into the deeper attacking area, or potentially they like to have those little passing triangles on the edge of the box, like I've mentioned before, and then start the offensive moves themselves. So whether it's a 1-2 or potentially creating for somebody else, they like to be hanging around that edge of the box area. As for the positioning freedom, I've gone with them both to have that free roam approach, because I want them to operate in the half spaces. I want them to try and create for others by exploiting the half spaces that the defense does leave, because it is a widespread team as it is. So naturally, the opposition will also try and look to go man-to-man more times than not, and try and open up a bit more space, which does allow for the likes of Wirtz and Hoffman to have a bit more freedom. And you do want them to pop up into those little pockets of space that are created essentially. And then in terms of the interceptions, I've gone with an aggressive approach. The front line needs to be pressing the opposition more times, and not waiting for them to potentially make mistakes, forcing them to make mistakes, and then the rest of the team will look to try and follow suit afterwards. As you can see here for Hoffman, he's got the same set of instructions as well. And then finally, we've got Boniface. He's set to have a balanced width, so he will look to have a bit more of an arcing run, whether it's in or out, but more times than not, he will look to operate that central role. You do have the likes of Wirtz and Hoffman on either side of him, as well as Grimaldo and Frimpong slightly wider as well. So you won't really look to operate too much in that wider region, but I've gone with more of a balanced approach in case he does need to make that wider run every now and then. In terms of his attacking runs, though, I've gone with a target man. You do need a target man, a big, strong centre forward in certain situations, especially with a team and a formation and a system like this that does require hold-up play, back to goal, hold up the ball, circulate it into either a Wirtz or a Hoffman, and then pass and move from there. Interceptions are set to normal, so the likes of Hoffman and Wirtz, they'll look to more or less lead the press at times, whereas Boniface will look to follow suit after that. And then the defensive support is set to stay forward. He will be the outlet more times than not. So yes, my dudes, that is the 3-4-2-1 Xabi Alonso Bayer Leverkusen system in EAFC 24. That's a mouthful, honestly. I don't think I'll ever get used to saying that. EAFC 24. But if you can, hit that like button, please. 15 likes, and I will drop the 4-4-2 formation that Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen also use. So, until the next time, I hope you have a damn great day. I'm out.